Can you hear me now? Perfect. Thank you, Tom. All right. Hope everyone's doing well. It is Tuesday afternoon, currently 4 o'clock. This is the last week of classes. That's right, last week of classes. We're at week number 9. You're listening and watching to PLAR History and Geography here at WASA. Again, my name is Jonathan. I am your teacher for this course. Like I said, this is week number 9. This is it. We're at the home stretch. There are only 3 more school days left officially. So we got Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then that's it. Term 2B is done, and we do have our midweek next week, so we do have a bit more time to submit those assignments, whereas teacher will still be in office some during next week to mark and finish any marking. Again, like I said, the official deadline to submit any work is this Friday. Again, last day to submit any work is this Friday, June the 17th. So again, any assignments, any tests, any outstanding work, again, please try to finish up and submit it by this due date of Friday, June the 17th. Again, if you do need to write any tests or need to finish up a few assignments here and there, again, teachers will be in office the following week during a midweek, but after that, teachers are off for the summer and won't be back until September. So again, really work hard on submitting those assignments. Do as much as you can. Try to finish up, and hopefully you can submit it by this due date. And that way, teachers have an opportunity to mark, give feedback before summer terms or term 3 begins. However, feel free to still continue any IL students. There won't be any Smart Bridget class broadcasted over the summer, but feel free to work on any IL, PLAR History and Geography work. Again, I'll just mark that once September rolls around. Again, if you have any questions in regards to any due dates, last days, and all that, just let me know, and I'll definitely clear that up. Again, feel free to listen by radio, 91.9 FM. You can always call the WASA studio, 1-800-465-7144, if you want to call and participate, ask questions, if you need help, or whatnot. Again, feel free to give me a call during my office hour or send me an email. I know I'm not in office earlier today, and I will be out of office again tomorrow since I'm taking a first aid course. But again, just leave a message on my phone, send me an email. I'll do my best to reply during lunch or send any tests when I can. But again, just to let everyone know that I'm out of office again tomorrow as I'm taking a first aid course. But again, I will check any emails or messages when I can. Again, Facebook, again, feel free to add me on social media, add me as a friend on Facebook. Again, if you have any questions, let me know, and I can just get back to you as soon as I can as well. All right. Are there any questions before we begin today's class? We're almost done. We have one last lesson, and that is it. So if there aren't any questions, we shall begin. I know that Lillian is logged on. Hopefully she'll call and listen, and hopefully we'll help her if she has any questions. But today is our last official class in terms of content. We'll wrap things up. We'll finish what we don't finish today. We'll finish that up on Thursday, and then I'll go over some expectations, questions, the format of the tests for those students who have not done that yet on Thursday. But our last focus in terms of PLAR geography is that we need to cover latitude and longitude. Hi there, Lillian.
Hi.
How are you today?
Good.
Good, excellent. So I noticed that you are now done PLAR history. That is done. Hopefully you have seen your mark, and that's all good. I believe I marked assignment 9 and assignment 10 of geography. So again, continue to work on the PLAR geography assignments and submit them while you can. But before I begin my classes, since you're online, do you have any questions?
No.
No? Are you done assignment 11?
Yeah.
Yeah? Which one are you currently working on?
15.
15, good stuff. 15. So 15 was a big assignment. But again, there shouldn't be any more difficulties. Any questions with that one? Any confusions, anything you want me to go over before I go over assignment 16 content today?
Um, no.
No, everything makes sense so far. You're able to find the answers in your textbook in class.
I'm going to work on it.
Okay. Again, if you have any questions, just let me know, Lillian. It's something that, again, any questions, anything unsure of, any help with anything, let me know. We're alive. You're on the Smart Bridge, which is fantastic. Again, thanks so much for joining class. But again, let me know if you have any questions. But again, I'm starting latitude and longitude in terms of today's class, and that will be regards to assignment number 16. Okay? All right, class. Ask Lillian is flipping through and working on assignment number 15. Hopefully, if she has any questions and difficulty, she'll let us know. We'll check up on her when we can. But for everyone else, again, we're starting latitude and longitude today. Not a huge lesson, but it can definitely be stretched out in terms of its content so that there's no confusion. In terms of latitude and longitude, this is on page 62? No, 72.
No.
Page 72 in your textbook. Okay, so that's our main focus today. We'll be exploring latitude and longitude. So start on the next slide. I'm going to write out today's learning goals so that we have a clear understanding of what we will be exploring. So by the end of today's class, or hopefully by the end of next class, okay, I'm just going to write this out and then I'll read it out loud. Again, we know we talk about latitude, longitude, but by the end of today's class or by the end of next class, students will be able to locate major topographical features on a map, but more specifically, latitude and longitude. So let's write that out again. So latitude, again, we'll define what that is, why it's important in terms of location. Longitude, but again, we'll also be looking at other key features such as the equator, the prime meridian, and maps. Okay, so that's our focus for today, and maybe a bit of next class. But by the end of all that, students will be able to locate major topographical features on a map, otherwise known as latitude and longitude. We'll explore the equator, we'll explore the prime meridian, and so forth. Alrighty, so let's begin today's class. So it's a bit of introduction and background content before we dive right into it. So how do we find an exact location on a map, or how do we describe an exact location of a particular place? So our Earth, our planets, this beautiful green Earth that we live on, is massive, it's big. We know that. Give an example like Canada. Canada's a big country. There are many continents around the world, many countries, big or small, many bodies of water. Okay, it could be lakes, rivers, streams, oceans, but our planet is massive in general if we take into account all the different natural features that it contains. So if you want to pinpoint an exact location on a map, on the globe, on the Earth, it's pretty difficult. So in other words, how do we locate a particular or specific location on Earth? So what if you wanted to tell a friend the exact location of Sioux Lookout, Ontario? or the exact location in Lillian's case of Waterman. Where is Waterman? Okay, pretty hard to describe. You can say that, oh, Waterman is located north of Sioux Lookout, but then again, where is Sioux Lookout? No one really knows, right? So people may be like, oh, it's northwestern Ontario. That's still pretty broad. Oh, then people say that, oh, it's northwest of Thunder Bay. But again, it's not a clear indication of the exact location of a particular place. So our goal for today is to learn how we can locate a particular place on a map, on a globe, using latitude and longitude coordinates to pinpoint the exact location of that particular place. So we need a system, not just any system, but we need a system. But we need a system that is similar and is related to math. So if you have been taking Bonnie's PLAR math or any of the other PLAR math courses, your background knowledge and content in that will be extremely helpful, as we'll try to integrate a bit of math knowledge background in terms of looking at geography. So we need a system that is related to math. So we need a grid system with coordinates. Okay, we need a grid system with coordinates. What do I mean by that? Let's move on to our next slide. So a grid and a coordinate. So a grid can simply be graph paper. So if you have graph something like a linear equation in terms of math or whatnot, this is simply a grid. It could be just be simple as graph paper. I'm sure we've all seen it. Graph charts, graph paper, chart paper with lines, vertical lines, horizontal lines, that looks like that. That is simply called a grid. But a grid with coordinates simply looks something like this. Again, it has a vertical and a horizontal axis, is measured in degrees. So in terms of math, we know it as the y-axis and the x-axis. So we can apply those two knowledge when looking at latitude and longitude. So a grid system with coordinates. Coordinates, again, simply mean similar to y-axis and the x-axis when looking at math. So we need this kind of system to pinpoint the exact location on a map and on a globe. Let's move on to our next slide. Look at that. So we have a map of a globe. I'm sure we've all seen a map of a globe. I know that a lot of learning centers up north do have a map somewhere. You can find it in a textbook. You can find it in an atlas. Any map of the globe, different continents. But this particular map that I have on my screen has coordinates. Okay, a map with grids, and it has coordinates on it. Again, vertical lines on a map. And we can use these lines to pinpoint the exact location of anywhere. A country, a city, a particular place, wherever. Okay, so a map with grids and grids with coordinates. We need these systems. Okay? That makes sense so far? Any questions, class? Alright, good stuff. Hopefully it's not too confusion. But before we move any further and look at latitude and longitude and what it actually means, we need to know our directions. Our directions. Some people know it, which is great. Some people may not, and that's okay. But we know our sense of directions. Again, if you have a compass or an app on a phone that has different directions, again, that can be helpful. But we know directions based on north, east, south, west, give or take. So on my screen, class, I have a compass or map with direction, not a map, sorry, but directions with coordinates on it. So we have, it's known as the four cardinals directions. Otherwise indicating north, east, south, west. Okay, but if we expand it even further, we can go northeast, southeast, southwest, northwest, But we need to focus on northeast, southwest, the main ones. Again, like I mentioned, a lot of people may already know this or set direction. Where's north, where's south, where's east, which way it's pointing, up, down, left, right, but northeast, southwest. But if we don't, there's tons of different acronyms that we can use to remember or sense our 4 cardinal directions. So it could be never eat shredded wheats. Again, that's one acronym that we can use to remember. But in other words, northeast, southwest. This is really significant. We know our sense of direction in terms of northeast, southwest. We're looking at latitude and longitude because we need to be able to pinpoint the exact location with coordinates in terms of direction. If it's north, if it's south, east, or west of a particular point. Okay? Again, a 4 cardinal direction, northeast, southwest. Never eat shredded wheats. If we need to remember. Again, this is just additional information that will help. But let's dive right into it and let's look more specifically at latitude and longitude. But before we actually do that, we're going to define 2 terms. We're going to define the equator and the prime meridian. Again, don't get too confused with this 2 terminology of the equator and the prime meridian. It is significant, but it won't be too difficult to identify on a map. So let's start off with the equator. The equator. The equator is an imaginary line that goes around, that circles the middle of the earth. It's not real, it's not physical, you can't go to the equator. It's just an imaginary line that we use to indicate how far north or south a particular place is based on longitude and latitude. Okay, so this red line right here, class, that goes middle, exact middle across the globe of the earth horizontally is known as the equator. Okay, that is the equator. Again, it's the imaginary line that circles the middle of the earth. Again, it's not real, it's not physical, it's not actually there, it's just imaginary. Okay, and the purpose of the equator is to measure how far north or south it is from the equator. How far north are we going up, or how far south are we going down from the equator? Okay, again, don't get too confused. You won't be needing to identify or explain what the equator is, but all we need to know based on the equator is that it is right in the middle. It's an imaginary line that goes horizontally across the globe. Okay, middle horizontally line that goes across the globe. That's it. Okay, don't get too confused, but that is the equator. Okay, the equator. So let's get to the prime meridian. The prime meridian is the exact same thing as the equator, but it goes in a different direction. Again, it is also an imaginary line that goes around, across the earth, the globe, but it is in a different direction. In this case, it is vertical. So the prime meridian is this imaginary line that goes up and down the globe as well. It starts at the North Pole and South Pole. You can say that, I can write that out. Okay, it starts at each of the poles. But again, it's an imaginary line that goes up and down the middle of the Earth and of the globe. Okay, pretty straightforward so far, class. Again, prime meridian, imaginary line that circles all the way around the Earth, the globe. but it's vertical, not horizontal. That's all it is. That's all it is. All right. Again, just make note. Again, you won't be needed to explain or identify what is the prime meridian, but just know that it is the imaginary line that goes up and down. Earth, the ones at the North Pole and at the South Pole. All right. Everyone's with me so far? Good stuff. So again, I can write this out. And we prime meridian is vertical. Okay. If I go back one more slide, again, that is horizontal. All right, so hopefully there's no confusion. Don't get too confused about each one, the equator and the prime meridian. So let's look at latitude right now. Latitude. Let's define what latitude is. This is significant. Again, I think most students are able to identify the difference between the two, but they might get confused as to which one is which. They know what it is, they know what it stands for, but sometimes students may get confused as to which lines is latitude and which lines are actually longitude. Okay, so let's definitely try to clear that up. Again, if there's any questions, just let me know. Latitude. Again, these are latitudes are also imaginary lines. All of these lines are imaginary. They're not physically there. They're just imaginary. So latitude are lines that runs east and west. East and west. So in other words, east and west. They are parallel lines, which means that they have the same distance apart. I know that my illustrations on the screen is not perfect, so let's try that again. But there are horizontal lines that goes east to west or west to east, but they are the same distance apart. So right here, these are all the same distance apart. Hence why they are called parallel lines. Okay. Again, same distance apart that runs east and west. The purpose of latitude is to describe how far you are north or south of the equator. So pretend my black line on the screen is the equator in the middle, and latitude lines are used to describe how far you are north or south of the equator. Again, parallel lines that goes east to west, left or right. In other words, they are horizontal lines. Okay, they're horizontal line. Again, they are used to measure how far you are or the distance north or south of the equator. Again, how do I like to remember the difference between latitude and longitude? I like to use the word lats for flats. So flat lines, okay, these lines are flats. And I emphasize latitude. Lats for flats, latitude. All right. Questions on latitude? Any questions? Good stuff. So I do have more illustrations and pictures on my screen to explain latitude and longitude. Again, I do have different pictures of the globe, but again, these horizontal lines that are straight, same distance, parallel, are used to measure how far you are north or south of the equator. So picture a ladder. I'm sure we've all seen a ladder. And think about the steps of the ladder. Each step of the ladder can be a metaphor or symbolize latitude. Latitude. Again, any horizontal lines. Any of these lines. So if you're above the equator, you're simply north. And if you're below the equator, you're simply just south. Hence why our knowing our sense of direction comes in handy. Simple as that. Okay. So as we move higher above the equator, we're going further north, and vice versa for below and south. That is latitude. Latitude. And if you have guessed the class, longitude is just simply the opposite. The opposite. So let's look at latitude. Let's define what it is. Have a good understanding. There are some differences in terms of latitude and longitude. So longitude class. First, I want to point out that longitude lines are not the same distance apart. Not the same distance apart. Okay? Not the same distance apart. There are lines that are vertical, in other words, up or down. They run north or south. So again, vertical lines. And they're used to measure the distance, how far you are east or west of the prime meridian. So again, if I draw a black line down the middle to indicate the prime meridian, again, any lines in terms of longitude are used to measure how far you are east or west of the prime meridian. So each of these longitude lines, they start at the poles. North Pole, South Pole, they start there. Hence why they are not parallel. They are not the same distance apart. Not the same distance apart. That's all. That's the only difference. Vertical lines, they start at the poles, North Pole and South Pole. They're used to measure how far you are east and west of the prime meridian. Alright? North and south vertical lines are longitude. Longitude. So you know that lats for flats, longitudes are not flat lines, hence why they're vertical. We call them longitude lines. Okay? Again, class, don't get confused on the difference. Again, it's really important that we know the difference of each one, which lines are which, longitude and latitude. But again, think of flats. For flats, any flat line, latitude, and if that's not flat lines, are longitude. Alrighty? So again, more pictures, more illustrations to emphasize the difference between latitude and longitude. So again, think of a ladder, picture a ladder. Again, if you don't, maybe go to your backyard and find one. Again, in terms of longitude, the legs of the ladder that I drew on the screen emphasize longitude. Now they're straight vertical lines up and down, north or south. Okay, that can be a symbolize or metaphor for longitude. Again, note they start at the poles. North Pole and South Pole. That's where they start. Okay, and they go all the way around. They're not the same distance, which in this case not really significant, but they are vertical, north and south lines, and they're used to measure how far you are east or west of the prime meridian. Again, prime meridian, again, we know that it is the imaginary line that goes up and down. Boom, right there. Okay? Any questions in regards to longitude and latitude? So now we know which line is which. why its significance, what it's used for in terms of a map, in terms of a grid, in terms of a coordinates. So now let's put it all together. So what we just talked about, let's put it all together so that we can locate and pinpoint down the exact location on a map on a particular place on a globe. But again, more pictures of longitude and latitude before we progress. Again, just lines. Again, latitude lines, longitude lines. Again, note that they're in the same distance parallel for latitude. Note that these lines are not the same distance for longitude. Again, that's why knowing where the equator, where the prime meridian is significant. So on my screen, hopefully you can all see it, I have a map, once again, of the Earth, of the globe, that is flattened out. We know that our Earth is in a spear shape, but when we flatten it all out, it looks something like this. And as we throw a grid system on it, boom, it looks something like this as well. So again, so now we have a map with a grid system, and we know that these grid systems are called latitude and longitude lines. So we know which one's which. So if I move on to my next page, I do have the picture of the same map, but it's bigger. Hopefully everyone can see that, and it's clear. Does anyone want to indicate where the equator or the prime meridian lines are in terms of this map? Or do you want to point to it or circle it or draw it on? Does anyone want to do that? Do you want to do that, Lillian? Do you want to use the smartboard feature and use that pen up here? Hopefully you can see it, and you can use it to draw on it or point to it. But we know that this line right here, class, is the equator. Again, the imaginary line that goes across the globe. And does anyone want to point out where the prime meridian is? Or say where it is so that I can draw it on it? The prime meridian. It is this line right here. This line right here. Perfect. Again, equator, prime meridian, those are pretty much just like a starting point. But as you can note on the sides of each map, it has numbers on it in different directions. And it goes in degrees. And in other words, in terms of degrees, it's just like a protractor. If you have seen a protractor, it is measured in degrees. 0, 90, and all the way around. It's just something like that. So now how do I get rid of this thing now? Let's do the undo button. Undo erase. There we go. That will disappear. Again, the prime meridian and equator, they start at 0 degrees. That's, again, it's our starting point, 0 degrees. And as you know, anything above the equator is north. Okay, north and north. And then below the equator, we know that it is south. Again, no one direction is significant. And then above the equator is north, and then below the equator is south. And same thing, anything on the right-hand side of the prime meridian, we know that is east. It's east. And then on the left-hand side of the prime meridian, does anyone know what it is? If you have guessed west, you are correct. West. West. So again, pretty significant. We got north, we got south, and on this side we have east, and on this side we have west. That's all it is. And as the lines increase higher north, it increases in value. Same thing below, it just increased in values. So 0, 20, 40, 60, 80, so forth. Goes up to 180. Okay, it doesn't necessarily have to count by 20s, but again, it just increases. Same thing for the prime meridian. Longitude lines, 20, 60, 100, count by 2s, doesn't matter. It just increases in value as we go further away. Again, same thing for on the west, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140. As you continue to move further west, it just increases in value. Okay? Questions? Question there, Lillian? How's assignment number 15 looking right now?
No.
Good? No questions?
No.
Good stuff. So again, hopefully you can submit all that to me as soon as you can. Maybe by today or tomorrow. So again, assignment 11, 12, 13, 14. Hopefully you can finish up 16 by Thursday. So hopefully you can finish off assignment 15 by today. Again, if you need help, just let me know and I'll point you in the right direction. And again, hopefully you can get that to me as soon as you can and I'll mark that. And hopefully you can finish up today's lesson in terms of assignment number 16 on latitude and longitude, hopefully by the end of this week. And hopefully you can write your test maybe on Friday or Monday of next week. And then boom, PLAR history and geography is done. And then you can move on to your next course. Okay, so that's our focus. Those are our deadlines to meet. Hopefully we can get there. Again, my goal is to help you to meet those deadlines. Again, class, last day to submit any work is officially this Friday, but we are in our office next week for a midweek. So we're all there. So again, we are able to mark a bill assignment next week. You want to do your tests to finish up again this week, next week, and then that's it. That's it. Okay, so keep that in mind. We're almost there. Summer is almost there, class. So again, don't give up yet. We're almost done. Do what you can. Finish up before summer. But again, if you don't finish up, not the end of the world. Just that there won't be any Smart Bridget class live. You can still continue over the summer with IL, independent. But again, try to finish up while we can. Okay, so now we know latitude and longitude, what it means, what it defines, where it is on a map, how we can find it on a map. So let's actually learn how to pinpoint it down and write it out. So writing latitude and longitude, pretty straightforward. It goes latitude, longitude, boom. Okay, latitude and longitude. It doesn't go the opposite way of longitude and latitude, but it goes latitude and longitude. Okay, it has to. I don't make the rules, it's just the way we write it. So if you write longitude first, followed by the latitude coordinates, you'll get half a mark because you may have to get it correct, but you wrote it in the wrong order. So the order does matter. So again, latitude and longitude comes first. So again, simply number, for example, it could be 13 degrees, whether it's north or south. Okay, indicate that first, north or south, so that we know whether it's above or south the equator, followed by a comma, followed by the longitude coordinates. Okay, for example, 13 degrees north, not south, sorry, my mistake. Or west. Okay, so again, it has to be north or south first, or east or west afterwards, for example. Okay, so again, latitude followed by longitude. Again, this is all stated in your textbook as to how to write the coordinates. So again, on my map, on my screen, I have a map of Ontario, our beautiful province of ours. It has Thunder Bay and Dryden. It doesn't have Sioux Lookout or no any of our northern communities. But we know that Sioux Lookout is somewhere around here. Okay. Give or take. Maybe not exactly there, but give or take. But we want to use latitude and longitude lines to specifically, I think maybe lat. So again, we want to use latitude and longitude lines to indicate where it is. So again, we know that we need to write latitude first, followed by longitude. So again, latitudes, lat for flats, any flat lines, any horizontal lines, these are latitude lines. So we want to look at Sioux Lookout, which is this dot right here. We know that since I placed it right there, it's below this line, give or take. And this is 51, so we know that a latitude either has to be 49 or has to be 50. Again, as we go up, it increases in value, and as we go below, it decreases in value. And since this magic dot, this red dot right here, is below this line, which is 51, we'll call it 50. And we know that it's north because it's labeled north. Again, and then we can look at longitude lines. Again, these lines right here, that goes vertical, up and down the map. So look at this. Again, we know it's west. And I'll place this dot just below this line right here. And we know that this line is 90 degrees west. So this dot, this red dot for Sioux Lookout, could be 91 or 92 degrees west. So our final answer for the coordinates of Sioux Lookout roughly is 50 degrees north, 91 degrees west. And we push that into our map or system, we'll get this rough location, give or take. Alrighty? Good stuff. Any questions so far? Good. Again, just more examples of how to locate the exact location using latitude and longitude lines. Again, we always write latitude first. Can't emphasize that enough. Followed by longitude. So you'll have this page in your textbook. You'll see X, Y, Z. So if you want to locate this particular place, let's go with the Y. Why don't you pick a letter, Lillian? Lillian, can you pick X, Y, or Z? Pick one. Do you want to pick X, Y, or Z? Can you still hear us, Lillian? I know you have control of my board. Alright, let's go with the Y. Let's go with the Y right here. So if we want to pinpoint down the exact location of the letter Y on our map, again, latitude first. So look at that. Any flat lines, and in this case, it goes across this line. And we know that is 30 degrees south. Why? Because it's right there. It's below the equator. So 30 degrees south. And then we look at longitude lines. In this case, it falls on this line. And we know that it is 30 degrees east. That's Y. So if we do one more example, look at Z, which is in the middle of nowhere in terms of the ocean. Again, we can do the same method. We can look at latitude lines first, where it falls under. In this case, it goes again right across 30 degrees south. So Y equals 30 degrees south. And then we look at longitude lines. And again, could be this line, could be this line. And then luckily, it falls on this line. And we know that it is 30 degrees west. Because it is south of the equator and west of the prime meridian. So that's how we use longitude and latitude to pinpoint down the exact location on a map, on a globe, and so forth. Alrighty? Latitude and longitude. Are there any questions, class? Any questions? That pretty much just leaves assignment number 16. We will go over assignment number 16 next class, because I don't want to rush through it. But pretty much, but again, class, feel free to start assignment 16. You have all the tools and all the knowledge to do that. We'll look at it in greater depth, in greater detail next class. We'll do some examples together. But in other words, assignment number 16, it's multiple choice, out 13 marks. Pretty straightforward. All you have to do, class, is read the statement and pick the best answer, or the correct answer in this case, that follows that statement. Okay, you don't need to write anything, no more paragraph writing or full sentences. It's all multiple choice. A, B, or C, 33% chance of getting it correct. Okay, but again, multiple choice, pick the correct answer or statement that goes with the phrase. Okay, but we'll definitely do some together next class. But again, what you do need for assignment number 16 is this map. Again, you'll see this in your workbook. Again, it's a map of the globe. Again, it has latitude and longitude lines. It has A, B, C, D location on it, where you need to identify some of the location while using latitude and longitude lines and coordinates. Okay? Again, feel free to start that on your own. We'll finish that up next class on Thursday. So next class is our last class together for this term, term 2B. So again, feel free again, come to class on time. We'll do a bit of review on latitude and longitude. We'll spend a bit of time looking at assignment number 16, where it's all multiple choice, pretty straightforward. And then we'll stop it there, and then we'll look at what you can expect in terms of your exam, of your tests, as you write your final assessment. Okay, I'll give you the format, what you can look for, what to expect. I know some students are already written the tests, whether it's history, geography. Again, some students may need just one portion, or where some students may need both. Okay, so again, we'll definitely talk about that expectation next class. Alrighty. Any questions, comments? Any questions, Lillian?
No.
No, everything's good. Everything makes sense.
Yeah.
Good stuff. So again, hopefully you can finish up assignment number 15 as soon as you can. Again, if you need help, just let me know. Give me a call, send me an email, Facebook me, ask me in class on Thursday. Hopefully you can be there again on Thursday. Um, but yeah, everyone's doing great. We're almost at the end. How's the weather in Waterman today, Lillian? Is it nice and warm and nice and sunny?
Yeah.
Yeah? It's the exact same thing here in Sewell-Gillis. Summer is definitely coming. Again, any last question, class, before we end it for today? Again, class, this Friday is the last day to submit any work, give or take. But again, do the best as you can. I know that some students are taking more than one courses, but again, finish up the one that you have done the most first before you finish up the rest. Okay? All right. All right. Thank you so much, class. Thank you, Lillian, for coming to class and listening and partaking. Again, my name is Jonathan. This has been PLAR History and Geography here at WASA. And I'll see everyone on Thursday, same time. We'll finish it up one last time, and that'll be it. So we'll stop it here for today. Thank you so much, class. Thank you, Lillian. And I'll see everyone on Thursday. Thank you, Miigwech.